So as usual, I want to basically share incredible videos that I've been coming across. I mean, I feel like there's a movement unlike anything we have ever seen in our lifetime. Something's definitely happening. And I'm going to have to share with you people who will actually give you much better description than I can give you. Because I have to tell you, I know there's a lot of despair. A lot of despair. Because we're not seeing a lot of movements. So I hope, as someone who likes to remain hopeful and have faith in Allah and in humanity, I'm noticing something. And I hope you are too. Here they are.
When the Palestinian genocide started happening, I deactivated my Facebook account and I opened up a new one. I correctly presumed that it was one thing to see evil being done in the world and evil being supported in the world by strangers, but that it would be a whole different level of pain to see evil being supported by loved ones and heroes and family. And one of the people from my previous Facebook found me on the new one. A very, very dear friend, my pastor from childhood, the man who taught me what it meant to be a good Christian and to love and be patient and to be kind and to turn the other cheek and to love your neighbor and love your enemy, and to, one of my foundational sources of faith as a love warrior who believes in the justice and good for all people, has been posting some of the most vile, evil, pro-Israel propaganda lie bullshit that I have seen online. And, well, if you wonder why I got rid of my Facebook and my Instagram accounts, it's because I couldn't stomach seeing people I used to love be so fucking evil. And I don't regret it. I'm bye. I want to cut off my entire community up till this point. My life starts now with a new life and new community and new people who do not think that slaughtering innocent babies is ever acceptable. That's my new bar. That's my new bar if you want to be in communication with me and you want to be in community with me. Killing babies is not acceptable, even in revenge. That's my fucking bar now.
Okay, I want you guys to indulge me for one moment. Okay, putting aside all your biases, any thoughts, preconceived notions, anything about borders, land, forget it all. I want to give you an example. Okay, I want you to imagine the following. The indigenous people of the United States of America, Native Americans, are granted land. And in that land that they've been granted, there's only their community. That community is bordered up, right? The United States controls their ingress and egress. They're not given equal rights as those that are in the United States. They rely solely on the United States for electricity, food, and water. They are not allowed to leave that land, to travel that land, to have the same rights as other U.S. citizens, and only those indigenous people contained within that border that they have been granted the land for as a result of the United States government taking over their land, right, are confined to these concrete barriers and walls. Now imagine the following. Instead of being governed by the United States and having equal rights, they have their own political party that governs over these people. And let's say the amount of land that was allotted to them is the size of, I don't know, Gaza. Now let's say that militia group, that the United States has granted the authority for them to run themselves, despite being reliant on the United States for electricity, food, water, okay, commits an act of terror, abhorrent, unacceptable, killing 1,400 U.S. citizens, and then takes hostage over 200 of those U.S. citizens. Abhorrent. Does the United States have the right to defend itself against that act of terror, against that militia group? Absolutely. Should they? Absolutely. But would you deem it acceptable for the United States, who has confined those individuals within those borders, to carpet bomb the entirety of that territory which they've granted to the Native Americans? Would you believe that it's acceptable to indiscriminately bomb schools, churches, hospitals, cut off electricity, food, and water to all of those civilians that, just by the way of them being indigenous, they're not granted the same authorities, rights as others who live within the United States? Would you deem that acceptable? Would you deem a legitimate military response to a militia group's actions that results in the death of over 7,000 individuals, 50% of which are children, an acceptable response? Would the United States be justified in denying humanitarian aid into that region for which they have confined these indigenous people? Or would you stand up and say that the United States has a duty, morally, ethically, to respond to taking out that militia group with the strategy and skills that do not cause the indiscriminate loss of human life? Or would it be okay simply because they're indigenous? Wouldn't you say that by the simple nature of not providing the indigenous people the same rights, imagine if Native Americans weren't given the same rights as other U.S. citizens, equal rights, equal access to food, water, electricity, would you deem that acceptable?
Hi. I used to be an evangelical Zionist. Now, I'm neither of those things anymore, and in the last few weeks I've often been very loud and sarcastic and edgy in my expression of my vehement disapproval of both evangelicalism and Zionism. And I think there's absolutely a place for that. But then also I sit here and I think about how many years it took me and how agonizing it was to come out of those ways of thinking. Because I do still hold to this belief that most people are better than their theology, and most people really do want to do the right thing. And a lot of people get stuck in a way of thinking where they've been misinformed and told that this is God's will. So I just want to speak to you heart to heart. And I want to ask you to consider, if you're somebody who is saying, I stand with Israel on the basis of the fact that we need to look back at history and as a society realize that we need to say never again to the genocide that was the Holocaust, then my first question for you is it never again for the Jews, or is it never again for anyone? Because the Israeli government, not with the support of all Jews, nevertheless, the government has been perpetrating a genocide on the Palestinian people for the last several years. But if you've been told not to believe that, then just come back to this for a minute. I want you to think about the fact that you have something in common with the average German citizen in the 1930s. And that is that it's statistically likely that you're both Christians. See, many of the Christian churches of Nazi Germany had an interpretation of the Bible too. In their interpretation, the Jews had fallen out of favor with God and therefore deserved to be set aside, dehumanized. And the scary thing is there's Bible verses to back that up. So when they all stood around and watched what was happening unfold, they didn't feel the moral weight of it, and they didn't stop it. Some did, but most remained in their mental state of being willing to dehumanize another entire group of people. And I ask you to consider the fact that the Jesus of the Bible that I know, who welcomed the stranger, who told us to love our enemies, who told us that if any were to offend even one child, it would have been better that a millstone was tied around his neck and he was thrown into the bottom of the sea. I don't think he was talking about just Jewish children, or by extension, Christian children. Although I have to say, many Palestinians are Christians, and almost half of them are children. I ask you to look into your conscience and ask yourself if you truly believe that Jesus is willing for a genocide to happen upon the Palestinian people so that Israel can have a political statehood. And I know it's scary to start to chip away your belief system, but I ask you to think about in the long run. Would you rather risk being on the side of a Jesus who wants Israel to have a political statehood at any cost, or being on the side of a Jesus who wants to rescue and save women and children and the weak and the hurting? I don't think it's a false dichotomy. Please think about it.
Oh, what's the matter? Oh, you're so sick of me? Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, does the truth hurt? Is it hard to accept? Are you having troubles? Hey, here I got a note for you. If you get on the right side of history, join the world in calling for a ceasefire, stop killing innocent people and these poor people that are suffering at the hands of a Zionist regime, then maybe you wouldn't be so sick of me. Why are you sick of me? I don't understand. Can you explain? Can you expand on that? What is it, because that you guys can't shut me up this time? Is that it? Okay. Interesting. Hey, I had one account pulled already. I'm not afraid. And here's what's interesting. My account before, when I was messing around with TikTok, and I was actively there for 6 months, just, I don't know, commenting on social issues and different things, and I barely cracked 460, I think it was. And then Israel got attacked, which I still haven't seen the evidence. I never saw the actual shootings. I never saw any actual evidence. We never saw any bodies. We saw a few blurred things on the TV screen. That's all I saw. I never saw any real evidence that Israel was actually attacked. We just were told, well, this is how they did it, and this is what we saw. I mean, I saw a few images of some paragliders, and supposedly those guys killed 1,400 people. And if that's true, I'm very sorry about that. That's sad. But how many dead Palestinians does it take, innocent people and children? How many being unalived is it going to take? 10,000? 20,000? One innocent life lost is too many. And hey, here's the thing. How does bombing the area where supposedly they're holding the hostages going to save the hostages? Yeah. So you're so sick of me. Well, you just warmed my heart. Anyway, when I recreated my account, in 24 hours, I went over 1,200 followers. Now I'm over 2,000. And I love my Palestinian brethren, all the people there. My heart bleeds and cries for them. I weep with them, and I cherish them. They need support and help, and they need to be saved, and I'll never stop.
I'm not a content creator, and I don't have a following, and I doubt anyone's going to see this, but I wanted to say that I have cried more in the last 3 weeks seeing what is happening to the people in Gaza and learning more about the history of their struggle than I have at any time in my life, with the exception of the death of my little sister 13 years ago. I don't know anyone in Palestine. I don't even know any Palestinians. But I am never going to forget this any more than I would forget my little sister. And I am never, ever going to forgive those responsible. And I know I am not alone in this. I see people on here with tears in their eyes. I see the grief. We will never, ever forgive. And for those of you who still somehow vote blue no matter who, I would no more vote for Joe Biden than I would for the black ice that sent my sister's car into a ditch. You better move, 'cause we aren't.